welcome to another episode of Shooting
the Shit with Rachel Ann
and Neal Young. So we're talking all things real estate photography business growth, mindset, and getting it done. Here come your favorite true entrepreneurs, Rachel Ann and Neal Young, shooting the shit.
I have a ferret on the podcast. Like if we're kind of in a slump, like what kind of things do you do?
Talking about a boob light.
Straddling a power line.
Nice photo.
Ooh, I need that.
I'm like red right now because I'm embarrassed. I go like this. I love it.
Come in.
Sure, use your podcast voice.
You know, over here, I'm pitting out.
Drone's like flipping to the ground.
That's a great callback.
Chit-chatting.
Is that what you call that? Hey!
Okay, cool. So today, guys, we've got a really excited one. I'm ecstatic about today's topic, and we have a guest. So today we're talking about if you had to start all over today, what would you do? What would be different? And in order to help us kind of get through all that, today we've got an awesome guest, Jordan Powers, who has been at it since 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And he may, in fact, have gone through a similar process once, maybe more than that, in his career to date. And so I'm excited to hear some about this. Jordan, you got to say hello to everybody.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Rachel and Neal, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is great.
Yeah, dude. It's a pleasure, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I understand that. So Jordan and I are just meeting the first time right now, but I understand that Rachel and yourself have chatted before or for a period of time. How did that come to be? Yeah.
Okay, you might have to share your recollection because I know we started engaging on Instagram, but I can't remember like what the catalyst was.
I remember I was following you on Instagram and I loved your work. It was probably 3 years ago. So I was about 2.5, 3 years in. And I always just looked up to you because I thought, gosh, his work is so great. Loved all your posts.
Thanks.
So I just reached out to say hi. And then we just started talking shop and we've just kept in touch ever since.
Yeah, okay. I do remember all that. I remember the thing is, it's like people, when you're in this space and you like teaching and educating and sharing things, I always get really excited when people reach out to me and like just start engaging because it's like you never know who's listening. I'm sure you guys have experience with the podcast. You probably get people chiming in here and there, but it's like there's probably significantly more people listening who aren't letting you know anything. You know what I mean? They're not telling you that they're listening. So it's always really exciting when people tell you that they, are listening and they appreciate your stuff. And so thanks for the kind words. Yeah,
of course. And one thing that you actually really helped me with my business was you introduced me to the Z1 camera for Matterport. And you were like, you got to switch. It's so much faster and the quality is just the same. So I started doing the research and I was like, okay, let's do it. So
I never did convince you to get rid of that, not the Mobi, but the Ronin, the old school Ronin.
Oh no, I still use it.
I know.
I love it. I want another one because mine's like on its very last legs. It's falling apart, but I still rock it. Yeah. One day
what do you use? Are you doing video, Neal?
Yeah.
What are you using? Are you using one of the old?
No. Yeah, no. I think she looks cool rocking that huge thing because it's like, whoa, what's that? Where people don't know, but yeah, I couldn't do that. No, I have the Ronin S, the two hand like this kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I loved that. The only reason I stopped using that was because the batteries didn't last long enough for me. So that was the only.
What about you? What are you using for a gimbal, or are you using a gimbal?
And sorry to throw that. I warned you guys.
No, that's good.
Conversation off track.
That's why it's called shooting the shit, right?
Yeah, gimbal. The gimbal. So I have an RS2, the Ronin S2 for a gimbal. But what I discovered like over time is like using a gimbal started really messing with my shoulder and all the stuff up here. And I've been having shoulder problems for a few years now, but every time I use the gimbal, and I'm also shooting with like a Blackmagic camera often.
Oh yeah.
So that weight was just really weighing on my shoulder, and I started using a slider a few years ago, and I don't do too many real estate videos anymore, and we'll get into that. But for like when I'm shooting architecture, I use a slider a lot now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, cool. Yeah, maybe we'll dive into that. in a second. But that kind of leads me into anyhow what I wanted to say here first before we get into the nitty gritty of the big question, which is what would you do if you had to restart over, today? What I want, because I'm sure a lot of listeners probably already know about you, but there's probably some who don't. So I wanted to just start out with a little like overview of what is your, because I mean, if I look you up right now online, even I can find a couple websites, I can find a couple things on Instagram. You've got all kinds of products and courses and you're teaching, but I kind of want an overview of just kind of the basics. What are you really focusing on now? What's your main business? So then we can, where you are now, and then we can talk about it. If you were going to start all over again, where would you start?
Well, I'm glad. First of all, I'll say I'm glad that those are the only things you found, because at one point in time, if you would have searched Jordan Powers, you'd have found two things. One, a gay porn star, which was not me. If that's your thing, that's fine. But
I wish I found that. That's hilarious.
There was also, if you guys remember, like 10 years ago, there was an adult male student who had an affair with I'm a teacher who had an affair with a student named Jordan Powers.
Oh my gosh.
And I gotta say, as soon as that, Google is a crazy thing, because the minute that story broke, my Google Analytics went through the roof. Hundreds of thousands of visits to my website every single day.
Now we know your big break. We already know.
Yeah, that's how I got all my SEO juice. So anyway, so I'm glad that I've been able to overcome that finally, and those weren't the things that popped up for you.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so photography wise, I started doing photography in 2005, 2006. Professionally, I did weddings and portraits like a lot of us do. Long story short, I found my first camera. It was a Canon Digital Rebel, and a lot of my friends did photography at the time, and they taught me how to use it. And I literally found it. It wasn't like, that's a long story, but I literally just found it. It was free. And
it was calling out to you on a park bench.
I used to work for a hotel, and we had this thing where if somebody left any of their stuff behind for 90 days, we'd do our due diligence to make sure they could get it. And if nobody claimed it, we could claim it. I don't know if we were supposed to, but we did. And there was a camera, and I claimed it. And 90 days later, I had a Canon Digital Rebel.
Wait a minute. You said a Digital Rebel? What city was that? No.
Yeah. Ohio. It was in Ohio.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. So this was in Toledo, Ohio. I was shooting weddings and portraits. And this was like, I had always been somewhat entrepreneurial. So I had experience doing like small business things here and there ever since I was a kid. But so when I got a camera and I learned how to use it, my first inclination or whatever was to learn how to make money with it. And I think within a few months, I was already shooting a wedding with a buddy.
Oh wow!
Started shooting portraits. I put an ad on Craigslist. Shot my second wedding. No. Actually, my first wedding I shot by myself was for my cousin on Laguna Beach, and I was not qualified to shoot this at all. But so she was married on Laguna Beach, but the photos turned out amazing because they're an attractive couple, and it was on Laguna Beach, and it was sunset, and I shot all JPEG. And yeah, I had like 2 shots that turned out awesome, and those shots like carried my portfolio for a long time.
Oh wow!
Nice.
So quickly after that, I was able to start booking higher end weddings because of those shots. I looked like a good photographer, but I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. Subject matter matters.
Yeah. Right? But through doing weddings, I learned I shot a few commercial projects here and there for a local marketing firm in Ohio. And a couple of those shoots were for a local restaurant chain. So I shot a few like commercial architecture things. I shot one real estate type thing at the time. And then long story short, my wife and I relocated to Minnesota in 2009. And within a couple of years, we transitioned out of weddings and started shooting houses in 2011 when we were trying to find our own house. All the photos looked horrible. Real estate photography, I didn't even know was a thing at the time. We were looking for a house. All the photos looked horrible. I asked our realtor if he'd be willing to try professional photography. He said yes, and I've been doing it ever since. So,
wow, good for you.
Then I discovered PFRE and learned how to do it properly.
So what's your main focus? I know I saw a website that was more about architectural, and then obviously you've done a lot of real estate. What's your main staple? What's your main focus?
My main focus right now, okay, so that's an interesting question because I have a long term, like a shorter to long term
Yep.
main focus, and then I've got my short term main focus. So, um, so in 2011, I started my real estate photography business. I grew it, and not to jump too far ahead into the conversation, but I spent 10 years growing it before I decided to start finally outsourcing and bring people on and finally start delegating some of the tasks. And it was almost 10 years, about maybe 8 or 9 years. And so I was focusing on growing this business. I grew it from nothing. In my town where I was at, I was the only real estate photographer. I had some competition try and start here and there. So I kind of had a monopoly in the market, which was good for me. And it was a small town of like 60,000 people. So, we kind of dominated the market, and I had free reign to experiment with different prices, different marketing techniques and whatnot. And then, so that was my main focus. And then I started getting booked to shoot architecture. So commercial architecture from time to time. I would do some work for builders, some higher end things up in the Twin Cities. And I started falling in love with that because not so much because of the money, but because of the pacing and just the projects I was shooting. So I around about 3.5, 4 years ago, I kind of put up my flag and said, I'm an architectural photographer, and I started marketing myself more as an architectural photographer. And real estate, got put kind of by the side. Yeah, so the last 4 years, 4.5 at this point, I've been focusing on architecture, but I've still had a real estate photography business that was running. It's just being run by somebody else.
So, Jordan, you have some new release items that you've created. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and tell us about the new offerings that you have?
Okay, so some people might know me. I've created YouTube videos in the past. I have helped other people create online courses, but I've never really made anything of my own. And I didn't really want to make an online course for various reasons. I've made 4 of them for other people. It's a daunting task, as I'm sure somebody knows. It's a lot of work, and I don't know, there's just a lot of responsibility that comes with creating a course. And what I've actually found is I prefer helping people and just interacting with people on a smaller level, one-on-one. Like it's hard for me to just put stuff out there and let people interpret things the way they want to interpret it. I work much better when I'm just talking with people, whether it's through DM, like Rachel and I've been interacting for years, just mostly through DM, just throwing ideas back and forth. That's just the way I prefer to work with people. Like I said, I didn't want to create a course. I didn't want to create like another product or anything like that. So, and I also didn't really want to do coaching in the traditional sense. Like I have an aversion to the word coach for some reason. I don't know why. I'm sure there's a psychological reason somewhere, but I don't like the idea of people paying me to have conversations and help them. It never sat right with me. So I was trying to think, what can I do to offer value to people that would be, I don't know, less costly than just purchasing an online course, but it's also like me sharing. And I always listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's always talking about document, don't create.
Yep.
So, long story short, this could be a whole other conversation. In fact, it's the topic of the podcast, starting over. So we decided to start over and move across the country. And I figured I would document the process, what it's like to basically throw everything you built for the last 10 years away and start everything over from scratch. Like, what does that look like? What did I learn in the last 10 years that I could take and apply to a new business in a completely new market where I literally know like 1 or 2 people?
You're actively doing that right now.
I'm actively doing that right now. In fact, we moved in January of 2022. I'm not sure when you guys are releasing this, but right now it's August.
Yeah.
So since January, I've been trying to build a brand new business.
Oh, wow.
And I've had some things happen along the way that has made me have to start over yet again. So I've tried building a new business twice in the last 7 months.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
you're the right person to ask this question then.
Yeah. So the question is ultimately, what, if you had to start over, Anyway, so that's oh sorry. So Rachel, to answer your actual question, I've created this thing called the Open Book Club, and it's a name that other people came up with. I was telling, I basically threw something out there on Instagram one day, like, would you be interested in? I think it was originally going to start with just like group calls, where I'd have anybody who wants to join this group call, and then people started hearing about me moving, and they wanted to like know about the process, like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? This and that. So I started documenting it, and I was like, I don't really want to put this out there publicly because I'm sharing numbers. I'm sharing like how I'm building certain things. I'm sharing like all these details that it's like, I don't want to just freely give this out. One, I don't want my potential clients to see this. It just feels a little, I don't know, like I don't want them to think that I'm like, oh, this is what I do to make clients feel this way and think this way about me. You know, it's like something about that just felt weird. So I didn't want to put it out there publicly. I also, like I said earlier, it's hard to put stuff out there, because I don't want people to be left to their own interpretation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So
Yeah,
I figured if I could do this in a more enclosed environment and put a paywall behind it, that's very low price. It's like you don't have to pay $400 or whatever just to hear me do these things. I figured I would make 3 different options for people. So I started a Patreon page. It's called the Open Book Club. There's a podcast, which is $10 a month. And as of right now, I may change these in the future. The podcast is basically just me talking. It's like an audio journal style. So I'm like sharing my thoughts on things, what I'm doing, what I'm working on, how things are going, the things I'm struggling with. Then there's the second tier, which is basically a weekly mastermind call, if you will. And it's also me, and anybody who's a member of the group can join that. I do one public one a month so that everybody can join. There's no cost to it. And then I also share behind the scenes videos of what I'm building. And just to give you an example, the entire month of July, I released 1 video every week, sometimes 2 videos a week that basically show the entire process of me setting up SEO, getting my brand set up, getting a logo designed, setting up my website, Google My Business, like basically everything.
Wow.
That you needed to do. And then the third tier is the one-on-one coaching, which I said I have kind of an aversion to saying that, but that's what it is. So anyway, that was a long answer to your very short question, Rachel.
Yes, no, that sounds amazing. I love it. It's different. No one else is really doing that in this space yet that I know of. And of all people, you are one of the most qualified people to actually do this because you've done it before successfully, and now you're restarting again and teaching everyone how you're doing it. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's kind of cool too that it's a lower entry, because some of that private coaching can be very expensive, and you can kind of, sounds like you could be also, for some people that are maybe not as outgoing, a little more introverted, they could be more of a fly on the wall if they wanted to, as well, or as actually interact with you, it sounds like, depending on what their thing is. So that sounds really interesting to me.
Yeah, the coaching, I've got one person so far. I've done a lot of coaching in the past. I've put it out there from time to time on Instagram if anybody wants like a free coaching where I'll just sit with you and just chat about whatever you want for 60 to 90 minutes. It's very taxing to do that. I'm not sure if either of you have. Rachel, I know you've done a little bit of coaching, a lot, like kind of within within your own business though as well.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, it can be really taxing, like when you're just sharing everything and you're helping people to solve their problems. So I was like, I love doing this, but I have to put some kind of thing up. So I put a paywall up. But the group calls are like me interacting with everybody, and it's everybody interacting. I'm more facilitating these calls. It's not me like lecturing and teaching. It's like I'm trying to facilitate healthy conversations between people in the industry.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds really great.
That's
well,
awesome.
Okay, so then that kind of brings us to the question, which now I think has to be rephrased just a little bit. It's not what would you do, it's what are you doing differently this round, starting from scratch, and knowing, probably it's got to factor in here, knowing that you realized you really like the architectural stuff after doing it for however many years. So what's changed and what are you doing different? Let's dive into this a little bit.
Well, I'll say that I'm kind of still learning as I go, and which is one of the reasons I'm documenting it. I'm learning a lot. I talked to Rachel a month ago, and I kind of asked her like, what would you do if you were starting over? And we talked a little bit about that. And it's like, the truth is I still don't entirely know. I'm partially winging it, and I'm partially taking everything that I've learned over the last 10 years and applying the things that I know worked. And I'll say this, as far as like going back to your earlier question as well, like my focus. So the challenging thing is, yeah, we got up and we moved from Minnesota to Nashville in January, and the plan was to start up primarily focus on architectural photography in Nashville, because that's where a lot of the development is happening for the next, foreseeable future. There's so much development happening, so I wanted to move somewhere where the work was going to be instead of waiting for the work to show up for me in Minnesota.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to focus solely on architectural photography. I will do real estate, but I'm going to charge a ridiculous amount for real estate. So I started my real estate photography prices at $500 flat, just to show up and shoot. And then I worked on a day rate. It's $500, $1,000, $1,500. They could hire me for 2 hours, whatever. I was trying to basically fit it in closely to the architectural photography world. And without putting much effort into that at all, I literally cloned my website and just put real estate photography instead of architectural photography. I started getting contacted by a few higher end agents in Nashville, and I wasn't expecting that. I more put it up as a filter, but people started calling me. So that was a pleasant surprise that people were willing to just give me a $500 to show up and shoot a house.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
No, and I like that too. I like that too, because it's weeding out what is not your priority. But if somebody's willing to pay that amount that you're still happy to do it, then you'll do it. And I like that that's kind of my thought process too when I price things in general, is just, okay, if I had to show up and only do this, I don't want to in a year be sick of going to do this for this amount of money. So I better price it somewhere that I'm happy to go do it. So I kind of like that mentality.
It's, I'm not saying people were calling me left and right. I just want to be clear about that. So if anybody's out there listening to this and like, I'm going to raise my prices to $500, you're not going to get a lot of business. I promise.
$1 million.
Yeah. So it's not like I raised it to $500 and people started calling me out. I mean, there was 2 clients in my podcast. I share how one of them fired me. Long story short, it's because I didn't turn the lights on when I shot, because I think turning lights on automatically is ridiculous. But the homeowners didn't like that the lights were shot, that I shot the house with the lights off. The client just basically stopped calling me after that. So it wasn't an official fire, and they just stopped contacting me. The other one actually continues to call me to see when I'm going to be in town that I can shoot one of her listings. So I still have a client in Nashville, which I'll explain that whole dynamic in a second here. But the other, like I said, the main focus was to shoot architecture, and all of the efforts that I did there, to answer the question, what am I doing? Literally everything that I did to get new business in Nashville didn't work. It's things that I did 3 to 5 years ago that got me the work. So the first thing that I did was I created a profile on Thumbtack. Have you guys heard of Thumbtack?
Yep.
No. Tell me about Thumbtack.
Thumbtack is basically an app that's a lead generation tool for people in the service industry. So you can put your photography on there if you want, and people, if they're searching through the Thumbtack app for a photographer, they may stumble across you. You may get a job. I've made thousands of dollars through Thumbtack, and I've probably paid them a couple $100 just in leads, because you have to pay every time you get a lead, and then sometimes it's $3, sometimes it's $15. I think the most I paid for a lead was $18, and that turned into a $7,000 photo shoot in Nashville. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying, like, there's power in like these things that you think are insignificant,
right,
that eventually lead to something.
They actually reached out to me like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, Thumbtack, what is this? And I think I tried it out or something, but I didn't get anything that turned into anything, so I said, forget it. But yeah, that's interesting.
My philosophy is like, I'm gonna, if I can put it out there, like it's planting a seed. Any little seeds I can put, you never know what's going to come of them. And like I said, over the years, especially from this one shoot that happened in Nashville, that wouldn't have happened had I not set up this stupid Thumbtack profile. And that also got me like an Airbnb shoot here in Nashville. It got me another one as well. And I actually lied. The efforts that I put in, the other thing that I did in Nashville was I heavily focused on SEO. Before I moved out there, I put like 2 straight days into optimizing my website. I switched from Squarespace to WordPress. I downloaded the appropriate plugins. there's a podcast called Fuel Your Photos, and it's two former photographers who became SEO experts, and I basically just followed their advice. And within literally the day after I switched to WordPress and put all the work into like ramping up the SEO, I was ranking #1 for Nashville architectural photographer, and I was still living in Minnesota.
That's crazy.
So it's not that I wasn't doing anything, but the SEO continues to help me to this day. Like I since I've been in Ohio the last 3 weeks, I've gotten 5 inquiries for architectural photography. So that was a lie earlier when I said with the things I've done haven't worked. SEO has definitely worked.
What hadn't worked that you tried from those experiments?
Instagram doesn't help at all. I basically stopped using Instagram. If you look at my main Instagram profile, you'll see I've posted maybe a handful of times this year for a couple projects that I shot. I've gotten basically zero business from Instagram, except for the occasional real estate photography shoot. In fact, the 2 realtors in Nashville that hired me found me through Instagram. So that's kind of a lie. I keep on lying on this podcast. I'm sorry.
Do you think that's part because the architectural and builders, they hang out on different platforms versus real estate agents are more on Instagram?
I think that's 100%. Well, I think let me rephrase that. I think that what happens is, because I'm posting work that I do for architects and builders, the realtors who are on there see that, and they associate that, oh, my photos could look like this, or my homes could look like that. And the realtors reach out to me inadvertently. Like I'm not marketing towards them. I'm not targeting them, but they associate me with these things, and they've hired me through there.
Okay.
I don't know if that really answers the question or not, but
no, I get that. I think that makes sense. And that's interesting to hear, because I know, a lot of us are focusing on Instagram, but yeah, I mean, it might be just some different markets, but there's probably a lot of variables in there that you could dive into, but that's definitely interesting to hear. Was there any other, did you do any other marketing, like Facebook ads or anything like that, or not really?
So that was part 1 of my two-part question, or answer to your question. So that was January through May when I was in Nashville marketing things. After a series of events, we decided to relocate again to North Carolina.
Why not?
Why not?
If the SEO works that good, you should just keep moving.
Based on that success is why they decided. Yeah.
Yes. Interesting you should say that, because that's possibly something I might explore in the future. Then everything changed once we decided to move, and there's many reasons we decided to move. It was a good reason. There was no bad reasons. We just fell in love with the area, bottom line. And Nashville housing market was absolutely insane. So we decided to move to Asheville in the mountains. So I was like, okay, well, there's literally no architecture photography that's going to be happening here in Asheville. It's an oversaturated market. There's no new developments going up, no new buildings. But real estate is plenty. There's a lot of real estate happening. So I'm like, well, I wanted to get away from real estate, but maybe I could start a real estate photography business here and continue marketing my architectural photography in Nashville. So that's what I decided to do. So I'm still continuing to market my architectural photography in Nashville, and I kept an office there, a virtual office that I pay like $100 a month for, so that I can keep my Google My Business listing. So if you were to search Nashville architectural photographer, I'm probably going to pop up 1 or 2.
Nice.
And it's because of all the SEO things I did, but it's also because of the Google My Business and the fact that I have a physical location.
Gotcha.
In Asheville, North Carolina, where I moved to, and sorry if anybody's in Asheville and just finding out that I'm there, but I'm there now.
He's taking over, folks. Yeah. Watch out.
Yeah, look out.
Jordan, stop moving.
No.
Yeah, I've been keeping it pretty quiet up until this point. I haven't like publicly announced that I'm in Asheville.
Stay out of New Hampshire. No.
Okay, well at our post,
I won't be going there.
I escaped the north to come south because I'm not dealing with that cold anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I forgot to mention is Minnesota. Like what happened with my Minnesota business. My real estate photography business that I started, 11 years ago at this point. Well, a couple years ago, I brought on a second shooter, and he essentially has taken over that business, and we have an arrangement to where he's basically buying it out over the course of the next 4 years. I'm not going to share because it's not fair to him. I'm not going to share what our arrangement is.
You don't need to. It's okay.
It's working out for both of us.
That's
so
cool.
What I decided to do was basically replicate exactly what I did in Minnesota, just remove all the mistakes. And that's what I've done. I basically replicated the business name in Minnesota. It was called Minnesota Home Tours. I didn't want to call it North Carolina Home Tours. I'm calling it Blue Ridge Home Tours because I'm in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it's scalable along the Blue Ridge Mountains. So I can basically scale from Knoxville, Tennessee, all the way up to Virginia if I wanted to. So I wanted to create a name that was scalable, that I could sell this off in the future and also build it up to the Blue Ridge Mountains. Yeah, again, same naming convention. I'm giving HD Photo Hub a try thanks to Rachel.
Yeah.
Who kind of gave me a little info on on how that all works. I'm still an Aerial guy. I'm gonna admit we use Aerial for my Minnesota business, and but I'm giving HD Photo Hub a try because I just want to see what else is out there. And so far I'm liking it.
Well, let me ask you this, Jordan.
Yeah.
So now that you're there, because you've kind of got these scenarios where you're, having other people handle some of your business now, you're outsourcing stuff, you have other shooters in certain locations. When you decided to go now to your current location, are you shooting, because previously you were trying to do all the architectural stuff, are you shooting real estate stuff firsthand? Do you have other shooters, or is that a part of the plan to grow more shooters into it?
Yes. So one of the main things I learned in Minnesota was like, if I could go back and do it all over again, title of the podcast,
right?
I would have hired somebody as soon as I possibly could, even when I wasn't making a lot of money. My first priority with this business is, I want to get new clients on, but first and foremost, I want to bring a photographer on. Like, it's not that I don't want to be shooting, but the sooner I can get somebody on and train them how to do it, the faster I can grow the business.
Exactly.
So if I've got somebody shooting while I'm growing the business, it's going to grow a lot faster than me trying to shoot it and trying to get new clients and then shooting and getting distracted by all that. If I can just focus solely on growing the business, it's going to grow a lot faster. So,
and what are your main focuses going to be for growing? Let's say you've got the shooters you need. What are the main things you're going to dive in or are diving into first to grow that, from that more of a behind the desk kind of scenario? Or are you going out on the streets? What are you doing?
Well, so let me start by saying we just moved in June, and it's August. We just turned August right now, so this has only been like a month and a half.
Okay.
That I've been building this. So I just want to keep that in mind. But so far I've gotten 3 clients, and one of them is going to be, I'm absolutely positive is going to be a long-term client. And I can say what I'm doing for these. So I'm offering the photo shoot itself free, first shoot.
Okay.
And there's no strings attached to that. The main thing is, it's like, I want to get in front of them. I want them to see there's another option that's going to provide you excellent work, but I also provide everything else and then some that everybody else offers. And what I found that's happening is, if I can get them to my order form on HD Photo Hub, they see all the other services. So they're going to order the photos, but then they're also going to order a floor plan, or they're going to offer or order drone, or they're going to order video. Yeah. So the first shoot that I did for free, she also ordered a floor plan. So the second shoot that I did, they ordered the photos. They used my first shoot coupon code, and they ordered drone photos and a reel, social media reel.
Nice.
The third person is, I'm gonna shoot it when I get back to North Carolina, but they ordered aerial video, and then I did the little upsell to where they can add property lines to that. And they're paying for all that. And then this other client that I just met with her face to face, she's moving to Asheville like I am, so we related on that level, but she's joining a brand new brokerage. Everybody's under 35. They're all very social media savvy, and none of them are using a photography company right now.
Oh, wow.
So there's only 4 or 5 agents with that brokerage. They're all under 35, so they're all hip to it. They're all attractive enough, like, to where they're comfortable being on social media. Which sounds shallow, but it's just the truth. People are can tend to be a little bit more comfortable on camera doing selfie videos. So I'm going to be heavily utilizing social media marketing with these people.
Very cool.
So getting in with that brokerage early. So
cool.
But to answer your question, I'm so sorry. Like I said, I go on these things. You kind of have to cut me off sometimes.
This is all good info, Jordan. Just keep going.
Yeah, no.
We don't really care if you answer the question.
I'm not interrupting because it's all good, man. It's all really great.
Well, the main thing is like I want to bring on a photographer first and foremost. They don't need to do all the other stuff. If they can do the other stuff, great. But it's first and foremost, I want to bring on a photographer. Because it's easy to photography is in my opinion, one of the easiest things to train people on. Especially if they've got photography experience. It's a lot easier to train. I mean, you can train them on floor plans, but I'm talking about like in terms of like entry level products that we're selling people. The photography is the gateway drug, right?
Right.
If I can teach them on photography, I can go with them and do the other things that the people are hiring us for and help them with photography as we're there. But photography is first and foremost the most important thing. Next, it will be video, and then so on. So I'll slowly build a team up. But if I can get somebody doing photography as soon as possible, that's the main priority.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, that's your bread and butter, right?
Right.
Everybody orders that no matter what.
Everybody.
Almost.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I just started doing HD Photo Hub's order form too. I started using the HD Photo Hub kind of services, but I wasn't having people book through that. But I found that same kind of experience that you're saying and that's what I was excited about, that they could see all the services. So right off the bat, people started booking like, twilight shoots just because they didn't even know that was something. Cause then my rate sheet before, they had to read down this thing and they probably didn't get to the bottom, so when you're seeing the icons and stuff for that, it is a cool workflow to kind of get people buying your stuff. So that's cool to hear.
Yeah, especially if it's easy to navigate. If they're not overwhelmed by options, they're more likely to select options. I've really taken advantage of the square foot thing. So if they enter in 2,300 square foot, it's only going to show them things that I want to shoot within a 2,300 square foot. So it gives them fewer options. I really like that option. I've been using my own order form that I created using a service called Paperform. And I love the way that looks. If I'm being completely honest, I don't like the way HD Photo Hub or Aereo or any other. I just don't like the design. I like the Paperform design that I use on if you guys go to minnesotaHomeTours.com, you'll see the order form that we currently use for that. I just think that's a little more modern and clean looking, but it's not as powerful as HD Photo Hub or Aereo. Okay, I don't even know why I did all that. You guys cut that out if you want. I don't want to knock them.
No, I get that, but that's a trade-off, right? When you got a system that can do all this stuff, but they also got to make it so that it's not as much of a labyrinth, and they simplify some things. So you're probably not customizing the look side of things as much to kind of streamline again for us, on the user side, probably. But yeah,
you could also suggest that they come up with different templates for us too, like different looks and feels. Like they're pretty open to suggestions on things. I keep telling them, get an app.
And ready. Not to go on a tangent about ordering systems. I was going to say Aereo just got their app thing set up, and I think that'd be a nice feature for them to
do.
Sure. I just implemented the scheduling to where they can choose the photographer and pick the time and date. And oh my gosh, like my stress level was through the roof. And I've been like, I feel like I'm on vacation every day. I'm like, I don't even have to schedule today. I come home, it's like 5 to 15 new orders. And I'm like frantically calling everyone, overworking myself just to get everyone in. I'm like, this is obnoxious. So
I was gonna actually ask you why you weren't doing that, because you kind of gave me a preview of like how you were setting things up. And I was like, man, because I think a lot of our conversation was, no. I think a lot of our conversation was about you like backing off the day-to-day things a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then
the reason I didn't is because I was afraid that they'd be driving all over town. Like they'd be scheduled an hour south and then the next one would be an hour north. And I thought that would it would be a nightmare. And it's not, because it suggests like a time that's close to their current shoot that they already have booked. So it's a very smart system. So once I learned all that, I was like, okay, I feel good about this. And we haven't had any issues yet. So it's been great. So, and my shooters have enough time to do all the shoots because I used to cram them in. I'd be like, you can shoot this in 45 minutes, you'll be fine. Because, you know, I could do it in 30.
Yeah, I can do it. Why can't you do it?
Exactly. Exactly. So
our thing was, and if you search Jordan Powers 20 minutes, there's you've seen it? Okay.
Yep.
That's how I first became, like, I guess, known for something in the community, was because I just one day I decided to do this Facebook Live video. Like, I had hardly ever chimed in before this video, but I did a Facebook Live video where I shot a 4,000 square foot house in 20 minutes with Flash.
Yeah.
And then I edited it in 20 minutes with Flash as well. And
that's insane.
I basically every photographer we brought on, I've trained them to basically shoot in that 20-minute. There's people out there that will, like, they absolutely hate me for that, though. Yeah, that's the thing I hate about YouTube. It's like there's just so much context that's missing in YouTube. Anyway, not to go on that.
That we'll have to have a whole nother episode someday when you talk more in depth about that, because it's very interesting, the getting that done so quickly, but also the editing, getting that done. I'm sure there's a lot of you've got probably probably at least a few podcasts you talk about that in your what are you calling it? Sorry, what's the name of the course? It's not a course. It's I
don't know what it is. It's called the Open Book Club. Yeah. And the podcast is just called Open Book Podcast. Yeah. And again, I didn't come up with the name, Rachel.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. Because now I have to go figure out a new name for whatever I create.
We kind of hinted to this a couple of times, but yeah, they're hinting back and forth because Rachel's been working on her own.
Yeah. Is this the episode you're gonna
well, I'm kind of creating a course. Like, it's in the works, but I have other things that are going on that are going to launch really soon, and they're really cool and really exciting. So the course keeps getting put on the back burner. So it's still there, and I'm working on it. But yeah, I came up with the name Open Book. Apparently, Jordan had been already talked about this on social since June, and I saw it just last week, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I already bought the domain." I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, so Jordan's going to have to buy that domain from you at some point. It's going to be worth a fortune. There you go.
They're a little different. Yes. Mine's an Open Book Entrepreneur, so it's a little different. But
yeah, like the thing is, it's like I said, I had put it out on social media, and I think what happened was I kept on saying, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. I'm an open book, this and that. And at least 2 people said, I want to join your open book club.
Oh, cool.
And they made it up. Like, I don't know where it came from. That's awesome. how it happened. I was like, I like the name.
Yeah.
And cool. that's the only reason I did that. And then the second thing people ask about is, why did I use such a serious photo for it? And the only reason I use that photo is because it's like, I have 2 photos of me that I think I like, and that's one of them. And I don't know. Anyway, that doesn't matter. It's not a super serious club. When you guys look at if you go to this thing and you see my photo, it's not meant to be all serious. There wasn't a lot of thought put behind it. I
just draw some bunny ears on it, and you're good.
The other problem with having the name Open Book is people think it's an actual book club. Like, we're gonna go and read a book together.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I probably saw your post, and like in my subconscious, I saw it. And then when I was sitting there, I'm like, what am I going to name my course? I'm like, I'm such an open book with everything that I teach my shooters. I just tell them everything. I don't hide things. Like, I'm not secretive. I'm just an open book. And so that's where I came up with the idea for it.
For what it's worth,
it doesn't matter.
I think we make it known now that's like, I think it's okay that you use that name.
Well, here's the thing,
though. This is not.
They're gonna Google search it, and they're gonna find you because you're like the SEO king.
No,
and I'm gonna be way down on the bottom.
Mine shouldn't show up because it's on Patreon. Oh. And I'm not putting it anywhere else.
Okay, well, maybe it will work. No, it's fine. I'm gonna come up with a better name, Jordan. I'm gonna come up with something more original.
I don't know. Open Book is a pretty good name.
I know. I agreed. I was like, dang it! I've been thinking about this since January. Yeah, it's fine. Oh
man, you should have told me. I wouldn't have used that. I would have changed it.
No.
Anyway, we're going on. We're going on about this.
Way
but
off.
Anyway,
way off.
All right. Okay. So.
All right. So yeah, no, I think that's all fun stuff. I love it. But was there any other? I know we had some other questions, and some of them we kind of hit on already. So, but any remaining big questions that you wanted to ask, Rachel?
Is there anything like 10 years ago that you wish you would have known then that you would tell yourself?
I think the biggest thing is to hire. I would have brought somebody, not even necessarily hire. I mean, the laws are different in every state. Like I know California, it's going to be really difficult for you to actually just have a contractor. Like you pretty much have to bring employees on at this point, I think, in California. But I would have brought somebody on a lot earlier, even when I didn't know what I was doing. Like, and here's the thing too. I greatly I don't know if he's going to listen to this podcast, but Jason, the guy who is basically taking over my business, I greatly underestimated him. He's been shooting with me for the last. He was originally my drone pilot. I was contracting out to do my drone work, and you know, I make fun of him all the time. He wasn't a very. I didn't consider him a very good business owner because he would do so much for free. Like he would just give everything away, and it's like, dude, why are you giving so? It's like it was almost maddening, because he was just giving away the farm, and it's like I say this because it's like I completely underestimated his ability to run a business. The minute I gave him, well, I don't want to say I gave it to him. The minute he took over this business, like he brought 2 new photographers on within just a couple of months.
Wow.
He met with every single one of our clients and like just on his own, like it wasn't my prompting. He just like he gauged like what are your pain points? What do you need from us? He wasn't necessarily going to give them everything they wanted, but like he took the time to do that. Like he got he did all the business stuff you're supposed to do. He got the LLC, got the bank account. He's like just doing everything right. You know what I mean? And it's like if I just would have let go of my own need to like control everything earlier on, it would have been a lot easier to tell him, hey, things aren't working out, than it would have been to try to grow all that on my own.
Right.
We could have been expanded throughout the state at this point had I brought him out, but
yeah,
or brought him on as either a partner or even a manager or something, but I didn't. So all this to say, I think if I would have just brought somebody on earlier, things would have been a lot different.
Yeah, and a lot easier because there is a lot to managing and growing a business. I mean, like I'm shocked at how many tasks have to be done throughout the month, to make this thing run. And my team has gotten a little bit bigger, but even 3 years ago when it wasn't, I was doing everything on my own and I was working like 12 to 15 hour days. There just isn't enough time in the day to get everything done. So yeah, I think that's great advice. And something I always tell my shooters too. I'm like, because they're all growing their own businesses, I'm like, hire someone. You were to the point where you're going to need someone in the spring. Get started now so that you're ready when the rush hits again,
I think there's I believe it was Mario Moneros, who's a photographer in Washington. He was telling me, I can't remember when, I've heard this before, but the way he was explaining it is like, you have to in order to scale and grow your business, you have to, like, you're going to go through a period of time where you're making a lot of money. You bring somebody on, you lose a little money, but you need that in order to get to the next peak. And then you keep on, you have to go through this period of time where you're not going to bring in as much money because that money is being invested into another resource, being another person.
Right. So and just like training. Sorry.
Right, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Just like when you're training, when you're training someone, right? It's really hard for me to train people because I have to go out with them, spend an hour or two with them in a house. And I'm losing money because I'm there training someone, right? And investing my time. But if I don't do it and don't put that time in and kind of take that dip, like you were saying, we will never get to that point where they're flying on their own. So you do have to kind of just step back a little bit to take 2 steps forward, right?
Yeah, I literally, I don't plan on making any money in this real estate photography business for like months. Like I've only done a handful of shoots at this point, and I know once I've been traveling for the last 3 weeks. So I've had to put things on pause. They're out of my control, but once I get back, I intend to go like 100% back into marketing and getting new business. And again, I'm hoping within the next month or so I can bring a photographer on. And I don't plan on pocketing any money for a long period of time. Fortunately, I've got other income coming in, different passive income streams. I've got another business that's running that I can still stay, up to speed with what's going on. I still get practice editing because I help with that, all the administrative things. So I'm still very involved in the real estate photography business that I can focus on that. But I don't plan on making any money from this business for a while. There will be another person making more money than me in the business that I own very soon.
Right. And that leads me into the last kind of question I think I wanted to ask was, I think there's probably 2 groups of listeners right now. There's somebody who's early on in their business, just trying to get enough consistent income just for their own self to pay their bills and be full time. And they want to know, okay, what do I do to start? Okay, I can do Thumbtack and do all that stuff. And then I think there's another group that is, Rachel maybe 3 or 4 years ago, who already had the business rolling consistently and maybe had 1 or 2 hires working with her already. But at that point said, okay, what's the next thing I can do for like a residual income that I don't personally have to go out, or my team doesn't personally have to go out every day to get? What can be the next thing that we get residual? So like in your scenario, so that you could actually move, you're not getting paid for a couple months, but you still have this income that's still coming in. What would you think, based on your experience, you would probably recommend first as something to dive into on that, getting some passive residual income coming in?
All right. Well, I'll say we can all agree there's really no such thing as actual passive income unless you buy a real estate and you have somebody property managing it for you. Then, I mean, that's about as passive as you can get. So there's always going to be work involved. Like even with the income I have coming in from Minnesota and the courses that I have out there that I produce for people, and I have the Sky Library thing. There's like stock photos, like all those things, they still require maintenance all the time. I'm constantly involved in those things. So first and foremost, I'll say that, keep that in mind. As far as having like something passive like that, for people, you said there's 2 groups of people. For the people who are already established, I mean, follow what Rachel's doing, first of all. Not to like blow smoke or anything, but I'm just saying, like, you're scaling a business relatively quickly. You've been doing this for a long time, but it wasn't until the last year or 2 that you've went all in on scaling.
Yeah.
And it's not completely passive, but you are now making money that you did not go out and physically generate.
I can take a week off work and I will still bring in income that
exactly
week, which is
so first and foremost, bring somebody on, because that's whether it's an editor, an admin, another shooter, maybe it's somebody who you bring on to document you behind the scenes and just film you can make a blog out of it, and you can make not significant income, but you can make some income creating content on YouTube or TikTok. A good person to follow is Eli Jones. He created everybody should know him at this point because his ads are everywhere.
Yep.
But
I almost took the course. I was like, I just want to know his process. This is very interesting to me,
Yeah. And the thing
is,
I
like his methodology. So
and here's the truth. Like, Eli Jones is not a real estate photographer. He's a business person.
Right.
Like if you go through his course, I take a lot of online courses because I love hearing other people's perspectives. I don't care if they're new, it doesn't matter. I want to educate myself as much as possible on people's thought processes. If you take his course, you'll find he's not doing what everybody in the Facebook groups says to do. He's not using Flash. He doesn't overthink his business. He's a business person. So everything is very processed and strategic. You see what he's doing on his and now he makes his money from his online course and his other ventures that he's built out of this online course environment. But I guarantee you he's generating ad revenue from his YouTube and his TikTok, because of all the content he puts out there. So anyway, all this to say, if you're not hiring somebody to work directly in your business, hire somebody or bring somebody on to document what you're doing in your business and put that out on social media and generate some ad revenue.
Love it.
Great
create products. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I love that.
Okay, I have one.
Yeah,
more.
no, that's one of those things that the Eli course, that's one of those things that I have think if I was going to start over, having listened to him about that he doesn't do Flash or anything, I'm like, man, that'd be a much easier world to just walk in there, snap. Yeah, I love that kind of different simplifying the processes kind of method. And it works for him. So yeah, I find all that interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't personally do it because I have too much, I don't know. I care too much about the quality, I guess. And people would argue that I don't give the best quality, but I mean, I couldn't walk in there and no offense against HDR shooters, but I tried doing it where I just shoot HDR and it's like, no, I can't do this. It seems to be more work actually in post-processing to get a decent.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah. So
Which is
I
weird.
never did the HDR thing, so I don't know, I haven't experienced it firsthand.
Yeah, it's weird because the editors charge less for HDR editing versus the Flambient, and you're saying it's more work, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But
yeah, I guess for me, interesting enough, when I shoot architecture, I rarely use flash. I shoot brackets mostly, and I hand blend everything, and it's very meticulous. So I think it's harder for me because I'm in that mindset, and I don't know how to edit HDR easily and quickly.
I shot HDR, just bracket shooting, for about 6 to 9 months. My whole team did, and my editor was killing it. And then all of a sudden, we had a couple houses with blue walls, and they were like green. And I'm like, dude, the color's off. And he's like, I need you to shoot with the flash. I just can't tell the color of the houses. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. But man, it knocks like 10 minutes off your shoot time when you don't have to do the flash.
Right.
That's if you're shooting with that's if you're shooting with a tripod. There was a period of time, probably at least a year, where in my real estate photography business in Minnesota, I literally shot handheld HDR.
What?
Yeah.
So you're awesome. How?
Well, so I was in and out of houses in like 10 minutes. So here's
what the heck?
I bet you were. You're just like, chink.
That's amazing. Was he even here?
So here's what I would challenge you guys, just for an experiment, not to run your businesses this way, but just try it. Just after you're done shooting the house the way you normally do, go through and shoot handheld HDR, do all the same compositions, and just try your best to hold it steady and send it off to your editor and just see what they send back. I think you'll be surprised.
All right.
And again, let me put a disclaimer here. I'm not saying do your business. Like, everybody chill out. I'm not encouraging people to go shoot HDR. I'm just saying maybe we need to stop overthinking everything we do so much.
Yes. I am 100% on board with that, Jordan, because I feel like you and I both have that business mindset, and it's like, how can I maximize my time and make a lot of money doing what I do and still give a good product? Like, quality is obviously important to me, but I don't get hung up on the flash and doing 6 flashes in one room. It's like quick and dirty. I just aim it and up the power to get the other side of the room. It's like, when some people see me shoot, they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it works. Look, I don't have a problem with my editors.
I think there's exceptions to the rule. I think there's people who are like there's not like, I can say I don't think there's a purity in real estate photography. There's not like this, this right way to do real estate photography.
Yes.
Like this elite way to do it. However, there's exceptions. You look at Andrew Bermasco in Southern California. He primarily shoots real estate photography. His work is absolutely beautiful because he shoots it like it's architecture photography. So that's an extreme example, but I'm just saying we don't have to overthink what we do. It's a business.
At the end of the day, it's business, right? And I've been thinking some of the same things, especially for video work now with the advances in technology. Even the gimbals that we mentioned earlier, I'm like, do I still need this gimbal? Could I think at some point I really would be tempted to just switch to only using a phone and no gimbal. The stabilization's so great on them, and the picture quality is getting really good. And it's like, would they notice? Would it matter? Would you still get something effective for your business? You know what I mean?
The reason I'm kind of giggling over here is because we have used a gimbal and a regular camera on real estate videos maybe twice in the last 2 years in my real estate in Minnesota. 99% of the videos are shot handheld on an iPhone.
There you go.
Wow.
And love it. And nobody knows.
Yep.
So when you're there, when the client's there with you, do they see you just like with your phone?
They don't. They look.
That's crazy.
They don't care.
Okay.
Our clients don't care, and they're not cheap. They're not cheapskates.
Yeah.
There's times where like, hey, we're gonna be shooting like so and so's house, and they're like, they're kind of hard to please. So can you make it look a little more complicated than it actually is? Like they literally will tell us that.
Yeah.
So we will show up with the gimbal, or
show up with the big camera. Yeah.
Or there's like a significant property that's like, let's put more effort into this, and we will bring the gimbal out and whatever. But don't overthink it. You can look at Tacey Youngman.
Oh, I know.
She's
amazing.
All iPhone. Like you'd never know.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's funny, like the technology too. If you try to hold my Sony A7 IV, hand hold it and do video, and then try to hand hold your phone's gonna be way better.
Well, look at Don Wilkerson. He's also in Washington. I think he does handheld Sony as well. And again, we have the tools to make our jobs easier.
Yeah.
So, but you don't have to get all the bells and whistles to like, you don't have to get like a extra monitor and like shooting
Right.
different. I don't know. It's just whatever. I'm gonna get so much hate from all the things that I'm saying, but it's
I
fun.
like it. I'm like, yes, tell us all these little secrets that make
I
our
like
lives
thinking
easier.
differently, and I think you're just ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
and people are going to get there eventually, but they're all, everybody's still in their head that it has to be this big camera to be the good quality, but it's really not the case anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I have one last question for you, Jordan.
Okay.
Do you have a good book that you have read about building a business or your mindset? Like, what's one of your favorite books that you've read or listened to lately?
Can
I
I
don't
give
even
you
know.
two?
Are you a reader? I guess I should listen.
I'm a listener mostly.
Okay,
I'm gonna give two. I can't just give one recommendation. I'm gonna give
that's fine.
two. So classic book everybody should read, and this is more just general people skills, is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Like
That's a good one.
I'm sure
That's a
everybody,
great one.
hopefully, yeah, Rachel,
Yeah.
Neal, have you read it?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it, so I guess I got to read it now.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Wait,
Neal.
no, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I
Okay,
didn't.
are you an audiobook guy or are you a
Yeah,
reader?
I'll listen to it. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'll listen in the car. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you.
All right.
I just need your email address.
Okay.
Okay, and then the second book is the Win Without Pitching Manifesto.
Oh,
Mm,
I
I
don't
haven't
know
heard
that
of
one.
this one.
Okay, I'll send them both to you guys. So it's are you an audible person, Rachel?
Mm, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so How to Win Friends is more about interacting with people, and it's the title sounds a little bit manipulative. It's really not. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's more just like helping understand like how people prefer to interact, and just I don't know, just how to have better interactions with people. Win Without Pitching Manifesto is how to sell when you suck at selling. Essentially, it's a book for this. The author Blair Enns wrote it for people in the creative space, and the book is essentially about how to sell our creative services. When at first glance it doesn't sound relevant to what we do, and full disclosure, it does for me. I interpret it more through the lens of an architectural photographer. You can still apply it to real estate photography in certain ways, especially when we're dealing more with like packages and like media type things. A lot of like what you're doing right now, Rachel, like selling media packages, like this book could be very helpful for something like that when you're selling like bigger ticket things. Yeah, but it's called the Win Without Pitching Manifesto. It's essentially 12 like declarations of like how we will run our businesses, like in our creative businesses, and it's a very powerful book. In the architectural space, it's landed me some of my highest paying jobs. That $7,000 job should have only been like a $2,500 job, but I sold it for $7,000. I just literally before this, I'm probably not going to get this job because I went way high, but I bid a job for $20,000, which should only be. I'm not going to get it because it's outrageous, but it's really only like maybe a $5,000 job.
Okay.
But this book helped give me the confidence to position and word things in order to put a number like that out there.
Awesome.
And I do think it could be relevant to the real estate photography space for packages and maybe even brokerage deals. So
Okay. Awesome. I can't wait to
Cool.
listen to it.
are you guys going to PMRE this year?
Well, Rachel's definitely going, and I'm still on the fence.
Neal's going.
I will say this about PMRE. Brandon didn't pay me to say this or anything. It's literally, I look forward to this event every single year, and the speakers are great. The education's great. It's like literally it's networking with people and just meeting people in the industry. And it's like just cutting loose from your business for a few days, like be amongst people that are throughout the country and the world in some cases, like doing the same thing you're doing. It's like you're just amongst your people and you didn't even realize it. Yeah. So it's just once a year to do that is like,
I mean,
refreshing.
I see the value in that too, because I used to I work for a software company, and we would do this big event. It's actually called NERSA every year, and we would connect with our main base. That was customers that we were meeting with, but it was such a good social thing, but also just, I don't know. It was a total like was looking forward to it every year, and it was a good thing for our business, but also just for your mind and everything. So I already can understand that that's what I'm looking for, because I'm probably not going to do the classes and stuff. I was more thinking about going for the whole environment of it all, and the connections and kind of networking and stuff. I was kind of excited about that, and experience also showing up with Rachel, and we're going to be ridiculous if we show up together, no doubt.
I've never even met Neal in real life.
Yeah.
We've never met.
We've
just
never met
on a podcast. So.
You know what's funny? It's just a random observation. The people that I've met online, I didn't expect them to be the height that they were when I met them in person. So it's like there's some people that I thought were a lot taller than they actually were in person, or a lot. I thought they were a lot shorter than they were in person.
Yeah.
Adam Taylor is a good example. I thought Adam Taylor was going to tower over me.
Yeah.
But I am like, I don't know, I'm taller than him by like several inches. So because he's like this big dude. If you guys have ever seen Adam Taylor.
No.
Adam Taylor? Oh, sorry. Adam Taylor is a buddy of mine. He created a course. But he's really into CrossFit and stuff, and just in his pictures he looks like
he's
just a giant dude.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's not a little fella by any means, but he's like a couple inches shorter than me. I'm 6'1" or something like that.
Oh, see, and I was thinking about that too. I was like, I have no idea how tall Rachel is even. I don't know.
Yeah.
How tall
I'm
are you,
short.
Rachel?
I'm only 5'5.5".
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Yeah.
See, wow, yes.
Everyone always says you look taller. Yeah.
Yeah, I picture you being like maybe 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, me too.
Well, when I wear heels, which I usually do when I'm out at fancy events.
Okay.
So.
That's what I would have guessed. And then, you got to guess my height.
6'3".
I'm gonna guess 6'1".
I like these guesses, but I'm going to disappoint you.
5'2"? 5'2"? Are you 5'2"? Or are you just a little?
My
tall?
dad is 6'4".
Okay.
And one day I looked at him and said, "Dad, what happened?" And he said, "I don't know, son."
Oh man.
The doctor said you would be 6'5", but no, I'm 5'10".
You're only
Okay.
5'10"?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're short. You look so tall in all the pictures I see of you.
I know. I have a tall vibe. It's just
Yeah.
it's
You're just lean.
Rachel's
I think that's why it
stature.
was interesting to me, because like the vibe people, it's not, I don't know if it's a vibe or what, but it's just like they're like people who have like not strong personalities, but like more present personalities seem like they're taller for some reason.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me and just my weird psychology, but
Maybe because you picture them in your mind as like larger than life. So you just,
or looking at them at eye level, maybe. I don't know. Instead of
Yeah.
like, hey.
yeah.
Well, that's good then. That's good.
Yeah.
I
You're
would have
literally
guessed
looking up to
I
them.
would have guessed you were probably 6'2", so that's great. And you know, Rachel, we've overestimated, and me, we've overestimated. So everybody's overestimated. We're doing great.
People
Well,
say
let-
that all the time when they meet me. They're like, "Oh, I thought you were taller." I'm like,
That's funny.
Nope.
5'5.5" and 5'10". Okay.
Yeah, I had this thought. I'm like, it's gonna be weird when I see Rachel in person, and she's like 3 feet taller than me.
Hello. Hello down there. Neal.
Hi, Rachel.
This is my little buddy Neal.
High five it. Yeah, right. And this is mini me. Yeah. You're gonna be there then, Jordan?
he's a
Yeah,
speaker.
I'm definitely going to. No,
Oh, yeah, you're
I'm
speaking, right?
You're
I'm
a
co-hosting a
presenter.
workshop. I'm co-hosting a workshop with
Okay.
Steve Magner. We're going to be doing. I guess maybe I could plug that. We're co-hosting a workshop on high-end video production.
Oh,
So we
okay.
will not be using our phones.
There you go.
Good to
There you
know. Please come. We're not going to use a phone.
Can I ask just a fun little aside? Can you
Mhm.
how do you guys pay attention to your stats with the podcast? Like
Neal
how many
looks
downloads you're
every once
getting?
in
Do you get marked with explicit on your thing?
a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Make a version that's called shooting the poop. If you're shooting the shit, and you can remove that explicit rating and you might get more listens. Just
Mm.
Okay.
just a little tip. Cut all this out. That was meant to just be a stupid joke that didn't land the right way. So this is dumb.
Shooting the poop
Yeah.
with
Shooting
Rachel
the-
Ann and Neal Young.
There you
Shooting the poop. That sounds messier. I don't
It
know.
I
does.
know. Now that I say it
Sounds
out loud, but
dirty.
like as I'm thinking through it, I'm like, I want to leave them with like something funny to think about. And it just didn't land. It just didn't land the way I anticipated. So.
I love it. Well, thank you all for listening to Shooting the Poop. And
See, now you gotta keep this whole thing in. Okay.
yep.
We'll keep it. We'll keep it. Fine.
Cool. But for real, no, dude, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking this time to be on the podcast with us. I mean, just gold. Everybody, I hope everybody listens to every second of this, because there's so much good stuff in here. I really appreciate you chatting with us, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to you guys. So thanks for inviting me on.
Of course. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what else you manifest and create in the future, because you're always doing new cool things. Can't wait.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Toodles. Oh my God.